Okay, yesterday we have discussed this Archimedes principle, right? Archimedes principle. Okay. So what does it say? So Archimedes principle states that when an object is immersed partially or completely into a fluid, it experiences an upward buoyancy force equal to the weight of the liquid displaced, equal to the weight of the fluid displaced otherwise. Okay, which is equal to the volume of the immersed portion of the object once again. So to keep it in very simple way, okay. Right. So when an object is partially, okay, completely, let completely first is completely or partially, okay, partially immersed into a fluid, okay, it experiences an upward buoyancy force equal to the weight of the liquid, or weight of the equal to the weight of the fluid displaced, the weight of the fluid displaced by the immersed portion of the object, right? So this is the complete form of Archimedes principle, right? So here we can understand the statement by dividing into two parts. See here, when an object is completely or partially, that means this statement holds good even if the object have been partially immersed also. Okay, it is not only for complete immersion. Okay, it is not only for complete immersion, but it is also holds good for partially also, even if the object is immersed partially also. So what is happening into a fluid? It experiences an upward buoyancy force. It experiences a force. What is that force? That is buoyancy force. How much? Equal to the weight of the fluid displaced. How much fluid is displaced? By what? By the immersed portion of the object. Means if the object is immersed up to this much, okay, it is equal to the weight loss is equal to the weight displaced by water up to this much portion. If it is immersed up to this much, okay, the weight equal to up to this much portion, or if it is completely immersed, then the total weight that is displaced by that object by the immersed portion of the object. So this is the Archimedes principle, and this is the principle used in okay, manufacture of ships or boats or whatever it is, steamers, you say whatever, okay, whatever the vehicles that are manufactured to float on water. So when does an object sink? An object sinks when the gravitational force or when its weight is greater than the buoyancy force. See, okay, finally what conclusion can you get is, so you can ask yourself a question, when does an object sink? Okay, an object sink. Now here, so for the condition for sinking is, suppose if there is a container like this, okay, and there is some fluid here like this. Now, if an object is floating means, here buoyancy force and the force that is acting down is mg, and this is the buoyancy force. Yes or no? So when these two are equal, when W equal to mg, okay, when W equal to buoyancy force, then object will float. Then object will float on any liquid, whatever the liquid will let it be. Next case. So when does it drown? When this one is greater. So that means when W is greater than buoyancy force, object will sink. Okay. So these are the conditions actually for the object whether to float or sink, right? Okay. 1 minute. I will fill the ink and some. Okay, ma. So what is the condition for whether floating or sinking? So if the object weight, if the weight of the object and the buoyancy force acting on it both are equal, then the object will float. Then if the weight is greater than the buoyancy force, then the object will sink. This is the condition for floating or sinking, and this is called as also the law of flotation. The body floats if this condition is satisfied, and the body will sink if this condition is satisfied. So what they do while manufacture of the ships, they make the force of buoyancy such that it is equal to the weight of the object. That means they will make in a way such that the liquid or the fluid displaced by this volume of that particular object is same as that of the buoyancy force. So by that they manufacture the ships or boats or whatever, steamers, etc., etc. Okay, understood? So this is the condition of Archimedes principle based on which the ships are manufactured. So the next one, if you go, so if you see, we have one another principle, very important and also applicable. So listen students, so here whatever the things, most of the principles what we are learning in science, almost they are applicable in our daily life. Okay, see the Archimedes principle, even the earlier whatever we have studied, means Newton's first law, Newton's second law, Newton's third law, everything in some way or other they are useful in our daily life experience or in our applicable practically in our daily life. That is the use of, or the what is that one, importance of science. Okay, right. Now we go to one other concept, that is, you might have seen a few systems. So what to say that one is, suppose in your locality, if somebody is building a house, those people need what? they need stones, they need brick, they need sand, they need cement, concrete, everything, no? So these bricks are manufactured in one place and they are transferred to another place with the help of some vehicles particularly. Okay, here what I discuss is, or what I speak regarding a tractor. Okay, regarding a tractor. Suppose if you have seen the tractor along with the trolley, okay, along with the trolley, and the tractor has brought a huge, that means a load of bricks, okay, a load of bricks. So now what will the driver do after reaching that point where the house is being constructed, construction place? He will come to that particular area. Okay, just he will operate or he will push or he will pull one lever. Okay, it will be like this, something he will pull like this. So he will pull like this. So what happens? The trolley slowly moves up. The trolley will slowly, what happens? It is horizontally in the beginning like this. So slowly it starts moving up, and you will be able to see one big pipe there. One big, huge pipe you will be able to see. It completely comes up to a particular position so that everything, whatever the load, whether it is a sand or brick or a stones, whatever it is, that is completely coming down. It will stay for some time. And when the substances or when the load is completely slipped down, what happens? You will again change that lever to the original position. So the lever initially it was in this position, you will again change like this. So what happens is the fish, the pulley or the trolley which is in this position. So what happens is slowly it will once again come down to the normal position. So this is one of the scene, one of the daily life situations you would have seen in your daily life. Okay, sometime or the other, surely. So that is one of the case. So in the next case, one another example. I will give one another example. So trolley of a tractor lifted up and down. Okay, next case is, okay, the brakes of a vehicle. Okay, brakes of 2, 4, okay, 2, 4 wheeler. Still, what can you say? Lorries, buses, and heavy vehicles. Etc. Okay, and then even the brakes of train also. Brakes of train. Okay, then fourth example I will say, you might have seen even some vehicles called JCB or Proclaim. JCB. JCBs are Proclaimers. Okay, so JCB is a small version of Proclaimer. Means the mechanism in these two is both is same only. Okay, but the size is different. Here this is a small vehicle, this is a very big vehicle. Okay, so okay, coming to the brakes of 2-wheelers or 4-wheelers. Okay, so you might have seen, suppose let us start with the 2-wheelers. Okay, so 2-wheelers nowadays the disc are coming. Disc is coming, above which one caliper will be there, and at the top portion one small vessel will be present in which oil is present. Oil is present. So we call it as disc oil, or generally brake oil or disc oil, mostly in the case of a disc. Then coming to the 4-wheelers, there will be a what is that one? Lever, brake lever we will call. So if you just press that lever, what happens is the vehicle which is of nearly 1 ton, suppose if you take a car, okay, the weight of a car generally varies from 800 to 1.2 ton. So that depends on vehicles. Even some cars are there whose weight is 2 ton also, okay, or even 2 tons, means 2000 kg. The force which you are applying to stop it is not of that much. Okay, very small force you are applying just with a leg. okay, on the brake pedal. So with whatever speed the vehicle was moving earlier, slowly it comes to rest or not. Okay, so the mechanism of working of this brakes. Okay, so whether it is a two-wheeler or four-wheeler, lorry, bus, and heavy vehicles are also even the brakes of train. Of course, the difference between the brake of a this one four-wheeler, lorry, bus, and a train is here there will be drum hydraulic, but in train huge springs will be present. Springs will be present. That also will be working on the same principle, that is hydraulic mechanism. I will tell about that. What is that? Hydraulic mechanism. So here brakes of the train, and finally JCB proclaimer. So if you see the mechanism, working mechanism of a JCB. So the person who is sitting inside, he will be inside one chamber. Okay, there are a lot of levers. So for these both, there will be many levers. Okay, lever. What is a lever? A lever is a simple machine which makes the work to be easy. Simple machine. Okay, I will tell you the simplest example for the lever. So lever mechanism means, suppose if there is a stone, huge stone on some surface. Okay, right. I have something here. Right. So this is something, so that right. Okay, ma, you see this? Are you able to see this? So now this is some heavy object, you think. Now I have to displace it. I have to move it. But my force is not sufficient to move this. So what I do is I take one long stick or a iron rod. Okay. With that, what I do is I will make slowly to move this one. So what is happening, you see, like this, like this. Okay. So understood now. So that is the use of lever. Okay, so I hope now you came to understand the mechanism of lever. So lever is something, or it is a machine, smallest machine, which makes our work easy, So huge boulder is there. Suppose a huge boulder is there, and you want to move that boulder, you don't have the sufficient energy to move that boulder. So what can you do? You bring a huge long rod of iron metal. Okay, just you push it. Okay, you just pierce it on the under, that means at the bottom of the stone, and you pull it like this. Okay, you apply a force somewhere on the other end of the rod, With a small force, you will be able to at least move that one a little bit. So slowly, if you do that one, you can displace it up to a larger distance. So that is the actual meaning of a lever. So what is lever? Lever is something, or lever is a machine, or lever is a tool which makes our work easy. So examples for lever, you can consider this one: screwdriver, cutting pliers, spanners. These are all levers only. So you can see the person sitting in the JCB. Okay, he will be enclosed in a chamber-like thing. Okay, where there is a window. Glass, like other vehicles. Wheels will be there. Everything will be there. So 4 poles will be there, each at one corner of the vehicle. So what will he do? If you want to, there will be a hand also, no? So JCB hand. So with which it is just pulling, and again it is taking the load and keeping in some vehicle, lorry, whatever it is. Okay. So first it will drag the substances, or it will drag the load, whatever it is, stone or whatever it is. So and then it will move like this, and again like this, and it will keep the load or whatever it is, okay, into some vehicle. So how this mechanism is completely done? It is completely done on the principle called as hydraulics. What is that? Hydraulics. So what is hydraulics? We will see now. Okay. So the only difference is, okay, what will he do? First he will make that vehicle to stand, so that if the object is very hard to move, okay, this should not move again. Okay, with the help of the JCB hand, no? Okay. So for that, first he will make the vehicle to be firm, to be strong, to be very strong, so that what happens, on the 4 sides of the vehicle, there will be 4 big, huge pillars like things, so that he will make the vehicle to stand on that 4 pillars, and slowly he will lift that vehicle above that pillar, such that the vehicle will not move while doing this work. Okay, if there is any chance, you can observe anywhere where the JCB is working. Okay, so mostly while removing this one, dust or this plants or unwanted things on the road or something, even to smash the building, any old building, if somebody wants to construct a new house or something, to demolish the old one, they will be using such a vehicle called as either JCB or Pocliner. So firmly first it stands. So how does it get lifted up? So it gets lifted up only because of the principle of hydraulics. Okay, so everything in JCB is working on hydraulic principle. Even here also the brakes are hydraulic brakes, and here also four-wheeler brakes, hydraulic brakes, and also the trolley working of a tractor. Everything is because of this principle called as hydraulic. So on what principle does this hydraulic work is? So let us learn that one. Suppose you have a column like this. Suppose if there is a enclosed U-shaped tube, which is something like this. So this is U-shaped tube, we say. Okay. So U-shaped tube. Okay. Now this is arranged with two pistons of leak-proof pistons. Okay. Leak-proof pistons, we will say. And then this is also arranged with a leak-proof piston. So we call this as pistons. Okay, leak-proof. So these two are the pistons of these two limbs. This is a U-shaped tube, and here we have some liquid. Right, students? So this is the arrangement. Okay. I'll tell the name of this one later. Now here you are applying very small pressure here. So pressure is P1 is applied. So it gets here in this direction. So here it is P2. So what is the formula for pressure? Force per unit area, no? F1 by A1. So here in this direction, what is happening is F2 by A2. Now let us try to understand what the statement says. Now here Pascal's principle. So what we study, how these hydraulics are working, or how a hydraulic machine works is nothing but based on Pascal's principle. Okay. So what is Pascal's principle? Let us see now, right? So here, if we are applying a small pressure or a small force, okay, so that force is equal to what? Smaller, okay, F1 is equal to P1 into A1. P1 into A1. Now, this force is transmitted to each and every part of the liquid or fluid, okay, including the container. including the all directions of the container. Now, what does that principle is saying is, okay, I'll write it here. External force is applied on an enclosed vessel containing a fluid. It transmits in all directions, including the walls of the container, walls of the container. So this principle is called as Pascal's law, Pascal's principle or law, whatever. You can say Pascal's principle or law also. So this is Pascal's law. So what does Pascal's law say? If an external force is applied on an enclosed vessel, enclosed, see, this is enclosed vessel. This is enclosed vessel in which there is some fluid. So this fluid could be either water or oil or something, whatever it is. So this law is applicable for whatever the fluid or liquid is that is present. Okay. So what happens is when you are slowly pressing or when you are applying a small force here, okay, this force is transmitted throughout the liquid or throughout the fluid, including the walls of the container. That means throughout like this, it goes on multiplying. It goes on multiplying, and by the time it reaches, okay, here the force is in downward direction we have applied, and this force gets the result in the upward direction on the other piston. So this is piston A. This is piston A, suppose, or limb A, limb B. Okay. So piston A and piston B are P1, P2. Okay. P1 is pressure here. So this you call it as pistons. No. So left piston, right piston. Left one and right one. So what is happening is you apply one small force here. Okay. Imagine that this is the lever of the four-wheeler car which we are pressing, brake pedal. You think that this is the brake pedal. This is the arrangement present inside the brake lever or entire braking mechanism of a four-wheeler or bus or lorry, whatever it is. So what is visible? Only this piston is visible for you. Brake lever is visible. And this entire thing is not visible to you. You don't know how it is happening. But we are daily applying that one. We are using that one. Okay. But what is the actual principle behind it is nothing but a Pascal's principle. So what does the Pascal's principle say? Pascal's principle says that if an external force is applied on an enclosed vessel, so this is an enclosed vessel in which fluid is present. Okay. Now you are applying a external force. So it gets containing fluid. It transmits in all directions. So it transmits in all directions, including the walls of the container. So here, while getting transmitted, it gets multiplied also. And as this area here, the area of the other limb is huge, then it results in a higher force. So therefore, what happens if this is F2? So then F2 equal to, as these two are equal. So F2 equal to this area, entire area is there, no? So A2 into what? A2 into F1 by A1, right? So P1 into A1, or okay, what we say is F1, F2, okay. Suppose, right, I'll write it here. So P1 is equal to F1 by A1. So F1 equal to P1 into A1. So therefore, F1 by A1. Okay, look here. F1 by A1 equal to F2 by A2. So therefore, what do we get for F2? F2 equal to A2 into F1 by A1, right? So A2 into F1 by A1. So this is multiplied by this factor. What is that factor? The entire area of cross section. The entire area of cross section of the right side limb is multiplied by this factor. So this is the pressure or this is the force. Suppose if you are speaking about force, P1 into A1. So this is the force being transmitted here, but by the time it comes here, this is the entire advantage. Okay. So this entire area, this is getting multiplied. So finally, the resultant force, the final force that is being acted in upward direction on the second piston, on the other piston is, what do you see is here, the multiplication of this area into force per unit area of this first one. So this one is transmitted, of course, or this pressure into area is multiplied throughout this fluid that is contained in this particular enclosed vessel. Try to understand. Okay, we are applying a small force. So the small force, in simple terms to say, the small force is getting multiplied into big force. Yes or no? Right, because suppose we are using our leg, even the two-wheeler also, just we press the brake lever. Okay, if it is four-wheeler, we are driving like this and we use our leg to apply the brake. Anyway, so the force what we are using is less only. You too know that one. Okay, so because the vehicle what you are driving, suppose you consider a lorry with a weight, suppose it is a loaded lorry and nearly 15 ton. The load is of 15 ton. 15 ton means what? 15 into 1000 kg, 15,000 kg. And empty weight of the lorry 2 ton. So totally 17 ton. So 17,000 kg of mass. Okay, you are only able to stop it just by applying some 10 or 15 Newton of force. Sorry. Okay. The force which you apply is little only. The force which it gets multiplied into by the time the vehicle stops is huge. It is huge. Yes or no? Yes. Because we are seeing daily the lorries are being operated, the buses are being operated, the trains are being stopped. You know, the train would have been come to stop by applying the brake also. Even just if you pull the chain also, in somewhere in each and every compartment of the train, there will be one chain. So if you pull that chain, what happens is the brakes will be applied and the train will come to stop. So that also would have seen. So right now let us see this one. So what is happening here in the simplest term? In the simplest terms, if we have to say, what should we say is, when we apply a small force in an enclosed container containing a fluid, the small force is getting multiplied into a huge force, which is exerted on the other piston in a huge amount. That means which is applied on the other piston in the opposite direction. Here, what is the direction of force you are applying? Here it is downward. So the force which is applied on the other piston is in what direction? It is in the upward direction. So you would have seen even this, this car servicing center. Okay, car servicing centers also. So here one more thing I can write, that is car servicing center. Also you could have seen. So the name of this arrangement is, this is what we call it as Brahma press. What is that? Brahma. Of course it is E-shaped. It is Brahma press we will call. Okay. So you would have seen this one, some vehicle, or suppose a car will be present on the other end. Okay. So here in this area, you could have seen a plate or a surface on where these vehicles are lifted up. Just roughly I am drawing. Okay. So such a huge car, by applying a force here. Okay. So this is the car. Now understood? Okay, ma. So this is what we call it as a Brahma press, and just by applying a force here, you can see the entire car getting lifted up, and the people will be checking for any repair or whatever it is. Okay. So did you understand this one? Once again we will discuss. If an external force is applied on an enclosed vessel containing a fluid, okay, it transmits in all directions. So how is it getting transmitted? See, F1 by A1 equal to F2 by A2. So small force you are applying, and then how it is getting multiplied into a big force by product of this one. So even scientifically formula wise also it is clear. So this is the factor which is getting multiplied, so that it is changing into a very big force and is being applied in the opposite direction, and that is lifted up. Any object that is placed there, it gets lifted up. So the same thing is applied in all these conditions. Trolley of a tractor. Now you try to understand. Now you apply this here all. Okay. So what is that principle? It is nothing but the Pascal's principle on which these are all working. Okay. So trolley of a tractor. Just he is pulling the piston. Means what? He is applying a small force. Small force, what is happening? It is getting multiplied and it is becoming a big force. Then you see the brakes of four-wheeler, two-wheeler. So here also the brake we are pressing with the leg. Either pressing with the leg means what? We are applying a very small force, so that what is happening? It is getting multiplied into a big force. So what is the mechanism? Hydraulic mechanism. So hydraulic brake. So here also hydraulic piston. The piston in tractor is hydraulic piston. Then here we say that it is due to a piston is present, right? Then brakes of a train, even here also hydraulic brake. Then coming to JCB or procliner, completely hydraulic. JCB and procliner, they are entirely completely working on what mechanism means. It is nothing but the hydraulic system only, whether it is brake or that hand or lever or whatever in the this one JCB or procliner, it is hydraulic machine only, completely hydraulic. Okay, and then the limbs of that particular hand or that piston, where the car is made to stop on that servicing pad. So slowly it is getting lifted up. So slowly it is getting lifted up. So here also what? Hydraulic system or the hydraulic. And this entire thing, what we are applying in our daily life, that means Pascal's law is exclusively used in the daily life situation in application of this hydraulic system. So totally it is nothing but hydraulic. Okay, I hope you understood up to this. Now we will go to the entire test. We will try to recap whatever we have discussed in this chapter briefly. Then we will go into the think and discuss questions. Okay, right. So just a small recap we will have. So okay, Pascal's law mechanism. Just we will try to recollect from where we have started this chapter and what are all the topics we have discussed in this. So first of all, we started with the floating, means the concept of density. Okay, then go to relative density. So what is density? Density is nothing but the ratio of mass per unit volume of a substance. Mass per unit volume of a substance means density is equal to mass by volume. So coming to the SI unit of density, what is SI unit of density? SI unit of density is kilogram per cubic meter or meter cube, cubic meter. Then CGS unit, what is the CGS unit of density? CGS unit of density is gram per centimeter cube, gram per centimeter cube. SI unit is kilogram per cubic meter and CGS unit is gram per centimeter cube. Okay, then we discussed regarding relative density, means suppose if an object is given to you, okay, whose volumes you don't know, but you know only the masses. So how do you find? Or simply, if volumes are known and masses are unknown, then how do you find whether some object is denser or heavier or not? Means we will depend on a particular method called as relative density. Relative density is nothing but a comparative weight concept. Okay, relative density is the density of one substance. It is a ratio of density of two substances. Any two substances. But in this context, that means as per our requirement, as per our necessity, what we are doing is we take or we compare the density of the substance with the density of water, because water is very cheaply available to us. It is very, very no cost, no. So that our purpose has to be fulfilled. We should find which one is heavier and which one is lighter. So for that we are depending on a method. We take the density of water. Okay. So that means we divide the density of the substance with the density of water. So that means it is a comparison here. It is a comparison of densities. So density by density means that is nothing but the relative density. So as relative density is a comparison of same quantities, comparison of same physical quantities, it has no unit. It has no unit. So that is what we write here. So density first we have discussed. So density is defined as mass per unit volume. Unit volume. SI unit is kg per cubic meter, or CGS unit is equal to gram per cubic centimeter. Cubic centimeter. So that is kg per cubic meter. Sorry, not this one. Okay, we can write either like this, or what do you write? Kg meter per minus 3. Then CGS. So CGS equal to gram per centimeter cube, or G per cm power minus 3. So this is the SI unit of and SI unit and CGS unit of density. Then coming to relative density, we have discussed. So what is relative density? So density of a substance by density of water, density of substance by density of water. So then to find the relative density of a unknown substance, unknown solid, relative density of a solid means irregular solid, that is irregular solid. So how can we find is equal to RD equal to weight of the object, or I'll write it in full form. So that is nothing but weight of the object divided by what? Weight of equal volume of water. Weight of equal volume of water means, how do we find the volume of that particular object? We immerse that object into a container with overflow facility, overflow jar. That means when we dip it into that container containing water, what happens is the water will flow out. Okay. So water will flow out. We collect that water and then we measure the weight of that overflowed water. Then we divide it by here. So that means weight of equal volume of water. So by this we can find the relative density of the object or the solid which is irregular in shape, and here the condition. So condition is here. So what is the condition for this? So condition is okay, the substance should be, or okay, the solid should be, here we are speaking about solid now. So the solid should be insoluble in water. Otherwise we cannot perform the experiment. The same thing, relative density of an unknown liquid. Same thing here also. We find the weight of fixed volume of that liquid. So that is nothing but weight of the liquid. Okay, weight of the liquid by weight of equal volume of that liquid by weight of equal volume of that liquid. Weight of equal volume of the liquid, unknown liquid. Okay. So this is also we have discussed already. So this is the first one and this is the second case. That means here weight of the relative density of irregular solid. Here we weigh the object in the air and then we immerse it into a overflow jar which is containing water. We collect the overflowing liquid or water and then we measure the weight of that overflowing liquid and we divide this by this. Okay, that is how we can find the relative density of this one. Okay, of unknown solid or irregular solid. Similarly, unknown liquid. Okay, weight of the liquid. You take a fixed portion quantity of that particular unknown liquid into a plastic vessel, a bottle. First you weigh the empty bottle and then you pour that unknown liquid into that bottle and then take the weight. Now you subtract the total weight and the you subtract the weight of the empty bottle from the total weight, then you will get the weight of the liquid. Then what you do? Take the weight of equal volume of water, then pour water into it and then take the weight. Now then subtract the empty weight of the bottle from the total weight. That means bottle plus water. Weight of, see, empty weight of bottle. then weight of bottle plus unknown liquid. Okay, subtract this total weight from, subtract the weight of empty bottle from the total weight. That means bottle plus unknown liquid. Now, second step for this one, pour water into that bottle, because already we have known the weight of the empty bottle. Okay, empty bottle weight we know. So what you do, equal volume we are taking. Okay, equal volume we are taking, because otherwise this formula cannot be hold good. Okay, now you pour the water into that particular bottle, then again take the weight. So now you subtract the weight of empty bottle from the weight of bottle plus water. Now you divide 1 by 1. Okay, then you will get the relative density of the unknown liquid. Then we went to the concept of pressure. Okay, then we discussed about pressure. Pressure is nothing but force per unit area. It is the ratio of force per unit area, the force acting on a particular area. So what is the SI unit? So Newton by meter square, because the SI unit of force is Newton, SI unit of area is square meter. So therefore Newton you can write like this, or you can write like this also. Then what is the CGS unit? So what is the CGS unit? CGS unit of force is dyne. Newton or dyne per centimeter square. So Newton per meter square is the SI unit of pressure or the CGS unit. So because here CGS unit of Newton is dyne, CGS unit of length or area is centimeter square. SI unit is meter square, CGS unit is centimeter square. So you can write this also as or dyne centimeter square, like this. Okay, then we calculated the atmospheric pressure. So atmospheric pressure is nothing but the pressure acting on a particular area of the earth any time at any given time. So that came to be how much? Atmospheric pressure. It is demonstrated by what? It is measured by what? A instrument called as mercury barometer. What is that one? Mercury barometer. So this was done by whom? Scientist called as Torricelli. Name of the scientist is Torricelli. The liquid used is mercury. Why not water? Because the density of water is very less than the density of mercury. So if you have to use water in this arrangement, this mercury barometer, then you have to take the length of the tube. What you have taken here in the mercury barometer, it is 1 meter. But if you have to use water, how much length of the glass tube what you have to take is 10 times more than what you have taken here. So what is the length? What is the measurement here? Measurement of the glass tube you have taken, it is 1 meter. So if you have to take water as the liquid instead of mercury to measure the atmospheric pressure, what is the length of the glass tube you have to take is, it should be 11 meter. It should be nearly 11 meter. Okay. Now here, what is the value of atmospheric pressure? What we have found out is 1 into 10 power 5 Pascal. How much it is? 1 into 10 power 5 Pascal. So this 1 into 10 power 5 Pascal or just 10 power 5 Pascal, it is equal to 1 atmosphere. It is equal to how much? It is equal to 1 atmosphere. So then what we have discussed is, we have discussed regarding this flotation or the Archimedes principle. What is Archimedes principle? When an object is completely or partially immersed into a fluid, the amount of buoyancy force working on that one is equal to the weight of the weight lost by the object by the immersed portion of that particular object. So this is Archimedes principle. Finally, Pascal's law. What does Pascal's law say? When an external force is acting on an enclosed fluid in a container, the force is distributed equally in all the directions, including the walls of the container. Okay, so we have extensive uses of Pascal's law in our daily life. So where it is used? It is used in each and every cases in our daily life, like hydraulic systems, hydraulic machinery, hydraulic brakes, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so I hope you have understood this, and we will discuss the remaining topic. That means whatever the fill in the blank or think and discuss questions in the next class. Okay, ma. I hope you have understood this. Thank you for listening, class. Have a good day. Bye.